storefronts right now. So today is Cyber Monday, a good day to ask what role online shopping is playing in all of this. And I want to bring in David Wessel here to talk economics. He's director of the Hutchins Center at the Brookings Institution. Hey, David.
Good morning, David.
So talk to me about what is happening to brick and mortar retailers in the United States.
Well, as you point out, consumer spending has been pretty strong these days, which is good for the economy because business investment has been so weak. The reason is that the job market's doing well and wages are creeping up. But still, about 10% of all retail space is vacant. I was surprised recently when I walked along Madison Avenue on Manhattan's Upper East Side just how many for rent signs I saw in store windows. And the mall thing is particularly bad. Vacancy rates in malls have been climbing since 2016. They're now higher than they've been at any time at the last 8 years. Altogether, the people who keep track of these things say about 7,000 stores have closed in the first half of 2019. That's more than in any previous full year for which we have data. And as you said, several chains that had borrowed heavily have filed for protection of the bankruptcy courts: Payless Shoes, Barney's, Forever 21, and a number of others.
It's amazing. I mean, just think of scenes like that you saw on Madison Avenue, a lot of places in the United States. If you just go by what you're seeing, it's like, oh, the economy must not be doing well. But as you say, it is doing pretty well. So is online shopping the problem? We're still buying stuff, but not from these brick and mortar stores?
Yes, that is the biggest reason. PricewaterhouseCoopers does a survey every year at this time of 2,000 consumers. And this year they found for the very first time that more people said they're going to do their holiday shopping online or on their smartphones than at physical stores. Now, of course, Amazon is the big winner, but Walmart, Target, and Best Buy are adapting to this new world, capturing a share of online shopping with things like you can buy online, pick up in person. Some other chains, JCPenney and Macy's, are having a harder time. I was intrigued by a move that Kohl's, a department store that has had some trouble recently, they agreed to accept Amazon returns at their stores in the hope of drawing more people to their physical outlets.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, I mean, if you're a traditional retailer, is online shopping, is this the single thing you need to deal with, or are there other challenges these days?
No, I think there are other challenges. There's a growing gap between communities in the U.S. that are prospering and those that aren't, and that obviously hurts retailers who serve the latter. And across the country, we see changes in consumer tastes as we do over time. Recently, I was in Portland, Oregon. I talked to a developer named Paul Brennicky, and his real estate developments are driven by his conviction that consumers will spend money for, as he puts it, food, fitness, and fun instead of buying stuff at the store. And a couple of retailers, Penny and Macy's among them, are now catering to the demand for used clothes by selling them at some of their physical outlets. Patagonia is doing the same. They opened their first physical store that sells used stuff. It's in Boulder, Colorado. It's called Well Worn.
You mentioned some communities not prospering. Why isn't every community benefiting if we're seeing consumer spending going up?
Well, I think the prosperity in the United States is very uneven. And communities that haven't seen increase in jobs, where the downtowns are suffering, are not doing as well because people don't have the money to spend. And the answer is those communities have to find a way to encourage economic development so that retailers can serve them. Maybe it's taking advantage of the new tax break called opportunity zones. Maybe it's doing other things with zoning or something to get business to town. But without jobs, without income, retailers don't do very well.
David Wessel, director of the Hutchins Center at the Brookings Institution. David, thanks.
You're so welcome.
Today, the 25th UN Climate Change Conference, called COP25, starts in Spain's capital, Madrid. The conference was supposed to be in Chile, but there were big street protests over the economy there, so Spain stepped up. Reporter Guy Hedgecoe is in Madrid.
The build-up to the COP25 has already been eventful. The last-minute change of host city from the Chilean capital to the Spanish one has added an element of drama to the event. What's more, that change of venue was decided just as the United States was formalizing its withdrawal from the 2016 Paris Agreement on climate change. The Spanish Environment Minister, Teresa Ribera, said that her country's offer to host the conference was a demonstration of multilateralism to counter the US withdrawal.
Por tanto, era importante que frente a la sensación
With the discouragement caused by the withdrawal from the Paris Accord of one of the biggest economies on the planet, she said, it was important that the international community found a way to resolve the challenge created by Chile's inability to host a conference. The change of venue has also affected teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg. She was in the United States preparing to travel overland to Chile for the summit when it was announced that Madrid would host it instead. She has raced back across the Atlantic on a catamaran in order to attend. Much of the conference will revolve around the framework of the Paris Agreement, which seeks to keep global temperature rises to well below 2 degrees centigrade. David Wasco, director of the International Climate Initiative at the World Resources Institute,